My huge shoe story. Ever since I could remember, I had been fascinated by my parents' shoes. There was something so alluring about their massive size compared to my tiny, childlike feet. While the other kids my age were content playing with dolls or action figures, I was drawn to the towering footwear that dwarfed my own modest shoes. It started when I was just a toddler. I would sit for hours, staring in wonder at my dad's enormous work boots or my mom's platform heels, imagining what it would be like to step inside them. Sometimes, when they weren't looking, I would carefully slide my feet into the cavernous toe boxes, but I could never quite make it all the way. There was just such a vast expanse of empty space that my little legs couldn't possibly fill. As I grew older, my shoe fixation only intensified. I would beg my parents to let me try on their shoes, promising to be incredibly careful. They would indulge me occasionally, chuckling as I struggled to keep the heels or soles from slipping right off my feet. But they always made me take them off before I had the chance to really walk around in them. "Those are for grown-ups, honey," my mom would say, gently removing the shoes from my clumsy grasp. "You'll break your neck if you try to wear them now." I knew she was right, of course. But that didn't stop me from daydreaming about the day when I'd finally be big enough to fill out a real pair of adult shoes. I would picture myself striding confidently in my dad's sturdy work boots or clicking down the sidewalk in my mom's sleek stilettos. It was a fantasy that consumed me, fueling my determination to grow up as quickly as possible. Of course, the other kids at school thought I was weird. They would tease me mercilessly about my strange shoe obsession, mocking the way I would gaze longingly at the grown-up footwear on display in store windows. "What, you think you're gonna be a giant or something?" they'd laugh. "Your feet are never gonna get that big, shorty." I would just smile and nod, refusing to let their jeers get to me. I knew the truth. One day, I would tower over all of them, my feet swallowing up their tiny shoes like they were nothing. And on that day, I would get the last laugh. As the years passed, I continued to grow taller and taller. By the time I hit middle school, I was already as tall as most of the other kids in my class. And my feet? Well, they were starting to catch up too. I still vividly remember the day I first slipped on my dad's old work boots and realized that they actually fit. I had come home from school to find him working in the garage, and on a whim, I decided to try them on. To my utter amazement, my feet slid right in, the heavy soles supporting my weight with ease. "Whoa, look at that," my dad exclaimed, his eyes widening in surprise. "Guess you're not such a little squirt anymore, huh?" I beamed with pride, strutting around the garage in my newfound footwear. It was the first time I had ever been able to truly wear an adult's shoes, and the feeling was exhilarating. From that moment on, I was hooked. Over the next few years, I continued to outgrow my own shoes at an alarming rate. My poor mom had to take me shopping for new ones every few months, as my feet seemed to expand by a size or two with each growth spurt. And with each new pair, I would eagerly await the day when I could finally trade them in for a grown-up style. By the time I reached high school, I had amassed quite the collection of my parents' old shoes. My dad's work boots, my mom's heels, their fancy dress shoes, I had tried them all on and found that they all fit me perfectly. It was as if I had been destined to wear these massive shoes all along. Of course, I couldn't just go around wearing my parents' footwear all the time. That would have been a bit too conspicuous, even for me. So, I started hatching a plan. I would wait until my parents were out of the house, then I would carefully select the pair of shoes I wanted to wear that day. I'd slip them on, marveling at how they seemed to mold to my feet, and then I'd strut around the house, practicing my confident stride. Sometimes, I'd even go outside for a little while, making sure to stick to quieter side streets where I was less likely to be spotted. It was exhilarating, strutting around in these oversized shoes. I felt powerful, unstoppable, like I could take on the world. And the more I did it, the more I craved the thrill. Eventually, my parents started to catch on to my little shoe-wearing escapades. They would notice their favorite pair of heels or loafers mysteriously disappearing for a few hours at a time, only to reappear later, slightly scuffed or out of place. "Have you been wearing my shoes again?" my mom would ask, eyeing me suspiciously. I would try to play it cool, shrugging nonchalantly. "Nope, not me. Must have been a burglar or something." But deep down, I knew I couldn't keep up the charade forever. Sooner or later, I was going to have to come clean about my secret shoe fetish. And when that day came, I was determined to make it count. The moment of truth finally arrived on my 16th birthday. It was a Saturday, and my parents had planned a big party for me at our house. All of my friends and family were going to be there, and I knew it was the perfect opportunity to unveil my shoe-wearing secret. As the guests began to arrive, I could feel my heart racing with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. I had spent weeks planning the perfect outfit, one that would showcase my ability to pull off wearing adult shoes. When it came time to greet my guests, I made sure to make a grand entrance. Striding confidently into the living room, I was wearing a pair of my mom's sleek black stilettos, the towering heels clicking loudly against the hardwood floor. The room fell silent as everyone turned to stare at me in stunned disbelief. My parents' jaws dropped open, their faces a mixture of shock and horror. "What on earth are you doing?" my mom exclaimed, rushing over to me. "You're going to break your neck in those shoes." I held up my hand, silencing her. "It's okay, Mom. I've been wearing your shoes for years. They fit me perfectly." A hush fell over the room as my guests processed this revelation. I could see the expressions on their faces shift from confusion to amusement, and I knew that I had their attention. "Ever since I was little, I've been fascinated by how big your shoes are compared to mine," I continued, addressing the crowd. "I always dreamed of the day when I'd be able to fill them out. And now, here I am." To demonstrate, I proceeded to kick off the stilettos and slip into a pair of my dad's heavy work boots, stomping around the room to show off their perfect fit. The guests erupted into laughter and applause, clearly entertained by my unexpected shoe exhibition. My parents, however, were not amused. They pulled me aside, their faces etched with concern. "Honey, we need to talk about this," my dad said sternly. "This shoe thing of yours, it's not normal. What are you trying to prove?" I could see the worry in their eyes, and I felt a pang of guilt. I knew that my shoe obsession had been a source of confusion and concern for them over the years. But I also knew that I couldn't keep it a secret any longer. "I'm not trying to prove anything," I said calmly. "I just love wearing your shoes. They make me feel confident, powerful, like I can take on the world. And now that my feet are finally big enough, I want to share that feeling with everyone." My parents exchanged a worried glance, but before they could respond, my friends were crowding around me, begging me to try on more of their parents' shoes. Sensing an opportunity, I eagerly obliged, slipping into a pair of sky-high platform heels and strutting around the room to the delight of my guests. As the party continued, I reveled in the attention and admiration of my friends and family. For once, my shoe obsession was being celebrated, not me.